this group is going to be etched in history forever, and that's pretty effing special.
The fans in Montreal, come on. They acted like they won the Stanley Cup last game. You kidding me?
The cup runneth over. Kucherov backed it up and did it again last night, this Lightning team. And game 2 tonight of the NBA. Let's go.
Kind of salty for a winner, right? I mean, just won.
Tony, you should take off your shirt. You'll be the first.
Pretty bleeping special, what Steven Stamkos said. A cup that makes you want to take your shirt off, right? Do we want more from Nikita Kucherov? How the Lightning dominated the NHL the last 2 seasons, the 2 most bizarre seasons in sports history, and what it means is where we start. Frank Isola, these 2 cups over the last 9 months, how do you view the Lightning, this dynastic great run they're on in a peculiar time?
Well, they've certainly been the best team. They've really been the best team for the last 3 years. The problem was 2 seasons ago, they got swept by Columbus and they got outscored 19-8. But you know what? In this condensed two seasons that they played, they were the most dominant team. Did they somewhat circumvent the regular season because Kucherov didn't play, but he was available for game 1 of the playoffs? Absolutely. But you know what? It is a special team. And before Elle steals my line, you know, it's that magic of Tom Brady showing up in Tampa did so much. That really was the combination right there.
Circumnavigate. Man, Magellan, circumnavigate yourself to the end of the line here. Duncan, how about you?
Oh God, it's always about Tom. Enough of him. I think it's right. Like, it's wildly impressive. It was done in a 9-month span, right? Them going back to back. And if I'm Nikita Kucherov, I'm also taking my shirt off. Think about the fact that all of this was in part made possible because he had hip surgery. Because he had a hip injury, they were able to largely keep this roster intact, right? Something that they thought they were going to have to blow up after last year. And he was then available to come and help them win Lord Stanley's Cup. I think it's impressive. And I would say this, we don't have to just write it off as peculiar times. They've won 15 postseason series since 2015. Yeah. Nobody's won more than 9 in that span. That's pretty impressive and has nothing to do with Tom Brady.
Yes, of course. Are you calling this a dynasty then, Elle? I mean, it's 2 in a row, and then there's that unfortunate postseason right before. Are you calling it a dynasty?
I feel like we love to ascribe dynasties as like 3 and a 4 or 5 year span. So not yet,
okay.
But also I'm not just writing it off.
I wasn't sure if you were calling it that. Sarah Spain, what do you call this run by the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, I just want to double check. Was that a Bill and Ted reference from you? Because if so, I just want to say San Dimas High School football rules. And if not, my bad. I'm not calling it dynastic yet because, as Elle pointed out, we usually need to see 3. I'm going to call it dynastish because I still do think that their dominance is really impressive. This is a team that's outscored opponents by 50 goals in the last 2 postseasons. Ooh. They're consistent. They're undefeated in games after a loss in the last 2 postseasons. Ooh. They're smart. We talked about Kucherov. They managed to maneuver their way legally and with NHL approval through the many rules to put themselves in a position to win. And they, via trades and drafts, 10 of the players that they personally drafted contributed to this cup. This team was well built. So you could complain about it, but you're probably just mad that your team didn't do it the way they did. And so I'm going dynastish.
Okay. Kevin Blackistone, having seen a relatively recent Stanley Cup champion not be able to put it together again in Washington, as you like to bring up, do you think of Tampa Bay as circumventors? Do you think of them as dynastish? What do you think of them after this 2-year run?
I think of them as damn nasty. And because I have to throw in that previous season that really Frank mentioned, where they were President Trophy winners, right? And not only that, to add on to what Sarah just said, I think I read that they lost 7 games in regulation the last 2 years. Just 7 games in regulation. So these guys were putting it on everybody. And of course, they have a former Hart Trophy winner in Kucherov. And I know there was a lot of chatter out there about the salary cap and everything. But last night, the players they had on the ice, only $3 million over the cap at this point. So this was a team that played by the rules that everybody else had and was able to hammer people for basically 2 seasons now.
Damn nasty. Hello, nasty. There you go, Stone. Frank, I saw the last word after the horn.
And Sarah mentioned that record after a loss, 14-0 over the past 2 postseasons. Let's give the goaltender, Vasilevsky, a lot of credit here. You know, if he did play in a big market, we're making fun of Tampa. If he played in Montreal like Patrick Waugh, if he played in Detroit like Dominik Hasek, we might look at him a lot differently. That is a big-time stud player that they have in goal.
I don't think we were making fun of Tampa, Frank. We were making fun of you for bringing it going straight to Tom Brady. That's what we were making fun of.
I just wanted to get on Al.
How about the Tampa mayor, Jane Castor? She called the shot. It's not often you want to tempt karma and say, I hope we lose on the road so we come home and win. They went home and they won. You know, they didn't get a chance to win in front of the home.
The owner wanted
the Hubble, and they did it 2 in 9 months. You never get to win 2 championships in 9 months. Tampa Bay just did it. Title town right now for Tampa. A point for everybody. We move on. Phoenix tonight, Game 2 of the NBA Finals. I'm not loving the logo. Can I say that before anyone else says it? Can they bring back the script of the 90s?
Yes.
Questions for tonight's Game 2. Can Chris Paul orchestrate again like he did in Game 1? And will Giannis look completely healthy again like he amazingly did in Game 1? For starters, Milwaukee's perspective, Sarah Spain, excuse me. What do the Bucks need to change most to even this series?
A couple things that actually shouldn't be too tough for them because they're things that they do well. One of them is play cleaner defense. Don't send the Suns to the line as often as they went in the first game. 25 of 26 from the free throw line. That's given up too many points there that are too easy for the Suns. They also have to be able to be more flexible on their pick and roll defense. They got dogged all season long for dropping their big man instead of switching it. And in this case, they decided to start switching and they got burned by it. You can't pick one or the other. Chris Paul is too good with that and Ayton is too mobile of a big man. But you got to give them different looks so that each time they can't so easily manipulate you. And they have to figure out how to better balance the use of Giannis as their big man versus Lopez. They can't entirely get rid of Lopez. They don't have the depth for it, and he gives them a lot on both ends. But they also need to figure out to have him not get out there so much because he's getting abused by Chris Paul.
So is that it? That's all they have to do? I mean
there's some more, but I'll start with
that.
that,
When you learn how to type
Sounds
its words per minute, that was, spoken words per minute that has to set the record there. 190 words per minute from Spain. Blackistone, from Milwaukee's perspective, things they need to change tonight to even up this series.
The final score, and that's about it. I mean, I don't think that they did too much wrong the other night. I mean, you look at it, they shot just about the same percentage from the field. They outshot them from the three-point line, out-rebounded them, had more assists. Their problem was, to Sarah's point, they gave up 44 points in the paint to a team that is smaller. That should not happen. They were also only 9 of 16 from the free throw line. They need to get to the line more. They need to limit the Suns' trips to the line, and they need to shoot better than 56% from the line. But don't make an adjustment. Don't go smaller. Leave Lopez out there. Make him punish people in the smaller people in the paint. And don't move. I don't want to move Giannis to the 5. Keep him where he's most lethal, which is at the 4 and beating up smaller people. So I would not change.
I got a lot of panelists shaking their head no there on some of Blackistone's status quo. Keep it the way it was. Frank, I sold it to you now.
Yeah, I like Giannis much better when he's playing center. That's their best lineup, I think. You know, the one thing about, what the Bucks did in Game 1, they did miss 19 shots in the paint, which is a lot for them. But this team has a bad habit of always losing Game 1. Over the past 2 postseasons, they've lost Game 1 in 5 of the 6 series that they played. And this year, they beat Miami in Game 1, and they didn't even play well. So they do have a habit of making adjustments. What would concern me is that they shot the ball well from the perimeter. They outscored Phoenix by 15 points on three-pointers. Are they going to shoot that well again? So they got a problem. They got to figure out that defense on pick-and-roll coverage with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I know it's a boring thing to talk about, but that's something that they have to figure out because Brook Lopez, just like in the Nets series, just like in the Atlanta series, got exposed a lot in those type of coverage.
Brian, can I drill down just for a second? Kevin thinks Giannis should be playing the 4. That's their best lineup. You disagree with that. You think the 5. Why?
I just do. I think it gives you a little bit more shooting on the court. It's going to force DeAndre Ayton away from the basket if he's going to guard Giannis. And at times, because of the knee injury that Giannis had, they put him in the post a little bit more, which is where everybody wants to see him. Remember, the biggest basket that he scored this year was the tying basket against the Brooklyn Nets when he posted up Kevin Durant to make it 111 all in overtime of Game 7. He can operate down there. That's where they need to get him the ball.
El Duncan.
I mean, I can tell you why he needs to play the 5. It's literally the only thing that worked in Game 1. I think Lopez and Portis played 24 seconds in the fourth quarter, and Wouldn't you know, they ended up bridging that gap. It went from a 20-point lead to a 7-point lead. Like, that's the only thing that actually worked. Like, to me, the only thing, and it's a very small thing that the Bucks need to do better, is just figure out their entire identity. I mean,
Is that it? Oh, okay, fine.
They're so up and down. It's like sometimes they are just absolutely dominant in the paint, and then other games they just decide to settle in the perimeter. They don't assert themselves. In fact, the only time we've seen them consistently assert themselves was in Game 5 and 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And wouldn't you know, they didn't have Giannis then, so they need to figure it out. I love that KB and Sarah think the one thing that has been the biggest criticism of Coach Bud through his career is exactly what he should do. More of the same. No!
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Go ahead,
Also,
Sarah.
worth noting, by
said
the way,
don't
and
do
especially
much.
to Frank's point,
Yeah.
maybe to Frank's point as well, worth noting, we all talked about they need to get more aggressive and get more foul calls so that they go to the line more. Sarge is out. They have a lot less depth in there. If you go after Ayton and you take away his ability to be in the game because you get him in foul trouble or otherwise, that's going to be a big hole for them. So
And
I
that
think
was the
aggressiveness
run
early
they
on
made
counts.
at the fourth quarter. I know, Duncan, you put that too, getting Portis out of the lineup. It was also because Ayton was resting at that point. Blackistone, last word.
Drew Holiday, clean it up. 13 turnovers as a team. He had some bad ones down the line.
Make a pick for tonight, L. Duncan. Who you got, Game 2?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bucks because despite everything I said, I wouldn't be that upset if I was
Despite everything I said, well, you should have told us that earlier. I told her. Who you got tonight?
The home team, Phoenix.
Blackistone.
Beer.
And Spain.
Bucks.
All right. Coming up, we'll be buy or sell. Oh, I'm reminded of a moment from yesterday's show. Roll 10.
It's worth noting that the Chicago Cubs are 0-11 right now on an 11-game losing streak. And the reason, I just want to point this out, might be because Sarah Spain filled in as host of the show and then on ESPN Day.
Oh my goodness, what is happening? Oh, a
So,
menace to society. Sarah, how do you respond?
I respond by saying the Cubs won last night.
Tokyo, no spectators allowed at the Tokyo venues for this upcoming Olympics. Games start 2 weeks from tomorrow, which is already today in Japan, and no spectators for the Tokyo venues. Sarah, does the Olympics lose something without fans?
I'll start by saying I think that this is the right move, a necessary move. It does lose something. Any sporting event loses something without fans. But I will say that the Olympics, for the way most of us digest them, is here's a package feature on how great this person is and why they're interesting. Now here's the competition. It's different than watching full games the way we do for a lot of stuff here. And I don't think we'll miss it as much as we would for our sports here.
Kevin Blackistone?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, you know, the Olympics are not necessarily a spectator sport, except with the exception of maybe track and field, maybe some swimming. I mean, I'm not going to be tuning in to watch the fans. I'm just tuning in to watch the events. And isn't this really just emblematic of the way we watch sports for much of the last year with no fans?
Frank Isola, the Olympics without fans, how will you be watching it?
It's a massive loss for the host nation. I remember in 2004 being in Athens when Greece played the United States in basketball. One of the best environments I've been at. When you see the 100-meter dash and those guys are lining up in a full stadium and you hear the roar of the crowd, there's nothing like it. Too bad for the people of Japan.
And L. Duncan.
It's absolutely the right move because I believe that Japan's vaccination rate is 15% right now, and we have heard for months the Japanese people say, we don't want the Olympics here, like at all. Why are you doing this? We're in a state of emergency. This is not okay. So for the IOC, this is the best case scenario in terms of they'll lose $800 million, but they'll get to keep the rest of the $1 billion that went into the Olympics. As far as the impact, of course, you want to have fans in the stands, but let's be real, most of the sports that we love, it doesn't come into play anyway, so it doesn't bother me a bit.
Buy or sell 2, the lowest ERA for a pitcher at the All-Star break in baseball history. It's Bob Gibson, 106 and 68. Jacob deGrom was there, but then he let up 2 yesterday to get him over the number. He's 108 for the season. First time he's been over 1 all season. Mets could start him Sunday on short rest, but it's likely he's done for the first half. DeGrom said he's going to skip the All-Star game to spend time with his family and get healthy. We've heard Carlos Correa will also skip the All-Star game. His wife is expecting. Jose Altuve also declining the invite to Denver. But Kevin, DeGrom is the number 1 or number 2 best story in baseball. Ohtani, the other, all season. You think he has a responsibility to appear at the All-Star game?
I think he has a responsibility to the Mets organization and to the fans. I mean, this is a guy who's had some right shoulder issues this year, missed a start here or there, flexor issue, whatever that is. I don't even know if I have one. So you know what? Rest. It's all about the team. It's not about the All-Star.
Love the way you say it, too. It sounds like it's a villain in like Transformers or He-Man, Flexor. Isola, how about you?
Yeah, the game is for the fans, and the fans are going to lose because you would get a possibility DeGrom will start. You face Shohei Ohtani. That's the matchup everybody wants to see. Why not just pitch one inning, get on a plane after the inning, and go home back to New York?
All right, so you think he has a responsibility to go to the All-Star game and pitch in the All-Star game?
Well, I'm not going to say that. If he's injured and he doesn't want to do it, that's one thing. But once again, it's only one inning, maybe 15.
It sounds like you're saying that. You're saying, I'm not going to say that, but it sounds like you're saying that, Frank Isola. L. Duncan, how about you?
I mean, yeah, All-Star games are for fans, but you know what fans like even more than meaningless exhibition games? Winning playoff games! And that is exactly what DeGrom is there to do. He is beholden to his team and the pursuit of a championship. He has been injured. He's the best pitcher in the game. Shut it down. No one cares. This is the Shohei Ohtani story. That's all anybody's tuning in for. We're all about it. You can take the night off.
Okay. And Sarah Spain, how about you?
I agree with half of that. It is the Shohei story, but plenty of people would love to see DeGrom pitch in the All-Star game. I would love to see it, but even more so, I would love to see him successfully finish the second half and then lead his team in the postseason, because what we've seen from him all year is much more important than that one inning or so. So I think it's right to get healthy.
Fire Cell 3, Colin McHugh's, Josh Fleming's, Diego Castillo's, Matt Weisler's, Peter Fairbanks' 7-inning no-hitter last night. Tampa over Cleveland in the second game of their doubleheader. Frank, how do you count a 5-pitcher, 7-inning no-hitter?
Tony, 18 years ago, 6 Houston Astro pitchers shut out or no-hit the Yankees. That was 9-inning game. Come on. This is all tainted. The idea that they play 7 innings is a joke to begin with. Good job by the Rays. It's not a no-hitter.
L. Duncan.
One pitcher pitching 9 innings is a no-hitter.
Yeah, it's not a no-hitter, and it's already been done this year. In fact, pitching a no-hitter is not even that impressive anymore because there's been 7 this year. So, you know what? None of them matter.
I think Frank's cab is calling because they know he's going to be eliminated first. How about you, Sarah Spade?
They all have a place, whether it's many pitchers or one. The real ones we talk about are one pitcher, 9 innings. More importantly, the Cleveland Indians are the first team since the 1906 Brooklyn Superbas to get no-hit 3 times in the same season already. Let's talk about that. That's a record.
Superbo stat there from Spain. And how about you, Stone?
Another minutia record for the baseball books. I mean, as if they already don't have enough. But the big thing here, I'm still ticked off about, and Frank kind of mentioned it, 7-inning baseball. What is that all about? I've already been to 2 of these as a fan. Major League Baseball, you owe me.
Duncan, what do you have for us?
You owe me 4 innings.
I'm sorry, real fast. Do you guys seriously watch the All-Star game and go like, oh my God, did you watch that ace strike out 3 people? Those are your biggest takeaways?
Yes.
You care about stuff like that?
New Hollins would all of a sudden arise in the Euros. Good grief. Horrible call. And Sterling, by the way, has a reputation as being a guy that takes a dive. Man, did they get beat on that.
Sterling has a reputation. Everybody has
soccer.
a reputation. You know. We'll split the point. We'll move on. Showdown 2. Home Run Derby field is set. Ohtani, Gallo, Olsen, Perez, Alonso, Mancini, Story, and Soto. KB, is this the best lineup possible for this season? And who you got?
Well, it's the best one minus Schwarber, who's obviously hurt. But I got Story. Who knows the thin air of Denver any better than Story, who plays there half the season? Come on. He's got an inside track.
Interesting. Okay, the inside track to me goes to the guy who might hit 60 home runs this year, Shohei Ohtani. That is my favorite. Trey Mancini, a great story, though. That would be a fun one to see win.
Mm-hmm. He knows the thin air. I think the air is, everybody's got an idea of the air. FaceTime goes to Sarah Spain.
Oh my gosh, let me first start by saying it is so nice to get to 100 wins. 100 shows faster than Pablo did yesterday, but that's a conversation for another time. I wanted to point out that Heinz is solving America's biggest problem. We have